Most people never fail because they lack talent. They fail because they hesitate. They wait. They delay. They postpone becoming the person they already know they could be. They tell themselves they'll step up when they feel ready, when confidence arrives, when circumstances improve. The Stoics would have recognized this instantly. They would have said, "You are confusing cause and effect. Confidence does not come first. Clarity does. And clarity begins with a decision, not a dramatic one, not an emotional one, a quiet, internal decision to stop negotiating with your potential." Epictetus taught that human beings are disturbed not by events, but by the judgments they form about those events. That includes the judgment you hold about yourself. If you believe you are not ready, your actions will obey that belief. If you believe you are incapable, your behavior will confirm it, not because the belief is true, but because the mind seeks consistency. Here is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-image. The Stoics understood this centuries before modern psychology gave it language. They understood that identity precedes behavior. This is why the Stoic principle, "act as if you are the best," is not arrogance, it is discipline. It does not mean you claim superiority over others. It means you refuse to behave beneath your own standards. There is a critical distinction here. Arrogance compares. Stoicism commits. The Stoic does not ask, "Am I better than them?" He asks, "Am I acting in accordance with my highest capacity?" Marcus Aurelius, arguably the most powerful man of his time, never wrote about feeling superior. He wrote relentlessly about responsibility. He reminded himself that power was not permission to relax standards. It was obligation to raise them. When he woke each morning, he did not ask how the world should treat him. He asked how he should behave, regardless of the world. This is where real confidence begins, not in recognition, not in applause, but in internal consistency. Most people outsource their confidence. They wait for results to justify belief. They wait for validation to justify effort. The Stoics reverse this entirely. They believe that action aligned with virtue creates confidence as a byproduct. You do not wait to feel worthy before acting with discipline. You act with discipline, and worth follows. This is not motivational thinking. It is psychological realism. Consider how doubt actually works. Doubt does not paralyze you because you lack ability. It paralyzes you because you lack commitment. When commitment is absent, the mind fills the gap with hesitation. Epictetus warned that if you want to improve, you must be willing to appear foolish at first. Most people refuse this cost. They would rather appear competent than become capable. Stoicism rejects this vanity. It demands courage before comfort. To act as if you are the best means you no longer wait for permission, internal or external, to take responsibility for your life. Responsibility is the dividing line between spectators and participants. Spectators comment, participants act. The Stoics had no patience for passive existence. Seneca wrote that life is long enough if you know how to use it, but most people spend it preparing to live instead of living. Preparation feels productive. Waiting feels safe. But safety is often just fear with better language. Acting as if you are the best does not mean you deny your flaws. It means you stop using them as excuses. The Stoics were ruthless about self-honesty. They believed that seeing yourself clearly, without self-pity or self-glorification, was the beginning of freedom. Freedom, to the Stoics, was never political first. It was internal. If you cannot command your impulses, fears, and habits, no external success will make you free. This is why the Stoics emphasized self-command above all else. Not control over others, control over yourself. When you act as if you are the best, you begin practicing self-command. You show up prepared. You speak with intention. You follow through. Not because you feel invincible, but because you refuse to act beneath your values. This creates a powerful internal shift. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" You start asking, "What does my character require?" Failure becomes information, not identity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is not poetic optimism. It is a demand for mental resilience. The Stoic does not collapse when things go wrong. He adjusts. And adjustment requires confidence grounded in principle, not ego. Here is where many misunderstand the idea of acting like the best. They assume it means pretending. The Stoics despised pretense. They believed pretense was weakness trying to look like strength. True strength was quiet, measured, consistent. To act as if you are the best is to behave as someone who respects their own standards, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. This is where identity is forged, not in public performance, but in private decisions. Do you keep promises to yourself? Do you do what you said you would do, even when motivation fades? The Stoics believed integrity was not moral decoration. It was structural. Without it, the mind fractures. With it, confidence stabilizes. Most people want confidence without structure. They want to feel powerful without becoming disciplined. Stoicism refuses this shortcut. It teaches that discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. When you act as if you are the best, you raise your internal standards. You ask more of yourself, not because you hate who you are, but because you respect who you could become. This respect changes behavior immediately. You stop tolerating habits that weaken you. You stop engaging in conversations that shrink you. You stop postponing difficult actions that build strength. This does not make life easier. It makes it cleaner. Clarity replaces confusion. Purpose replaces drift. The Stoics understood that most suffering is self-inflicted, not intentionally, but through neglect. Neglect of discipline, neglect of thought, neglect of responsibility. When you decide to act as if you are the best, you end this neglect. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. Epictetus was clear. Circumstances do not make the man, they reveal him. Waiting for circumstances to improve before improving yourself is backwards. You prepare the self first. Then you meet circumstances as they are. This is why Stoicism remains relevant in modern American life. In a culture obsessed with visibility, Stoicism teaches substance. In a culture obsessed with speed, Stoicism teaches patience. In a culture obsessed with confidence as image, Stoicism teaches confidence as alignment. Alignment between thought, value, and action. That alignment produces a form of authority that cannot be faked. People sense it, not because you announce it, but because your behavior is consistent. Consistency is persuasive. This is why acting as if you are the best changes how others respond to you, not through intimidation, through reliability. When you show up prepared, calm, and principled, people adjust, not always consciously, but instinctively. The Stoics understood human psychology better than most modern thinkers. They knew that trust is built through repetition. Do you respond the same way under pressure? Do you maintain composure when things go wrong? Acting as if you are the best is not a performance. It is a practice. And practice, repeated daily, becomes identity. This is only the beginning. In the next part, we will go deeper into self-doubt, fear, failure, and how Stoicism dismantles them at the root, not with motivation, but with precision. Self-doubt rarely announces itself honestly. It does not say, "I am afraid." It says, "Be realistic. Wait a little longer. Now is not the right time." The Stoics understood this voice well. They recognized it not as wisdom, but as fear dressed in logic. Fear, when unexamined, becomes persuasive. It borrows the language of caution. It imitates humility. It pretends to protect you, but its true function is avoidance. Epictetus warned that most people are not afraid of failure itself. They are afraid of what failure might say about them. This is the root of self-doubt, not inability, interpretation. You are not doubting your capacity. You are doubting your worth under conditions of uncertainty. The Stoics dismantled this confusion with precision. They separated performance from identity. What you do can succeed or fail. Who you are is not on trial. This distinction is liberating. Once your worth is no longer tied to outcomes, fear loses leverage. You still care, you still try,
but you are no longer negotiating your identity with every attempt. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that no role, no reputation, no result defines a human being. These are external garments. Character is the body beneath. The tragedy, the Stoics observed, is that most people invest their self-image in what is most unstable: status, opinion, comparison. Comparison especially is corrosive. It invites constant measurement against others whose circumstances, values, and paths differ entirely from your own. The Stoics regarded comparison as a category error. You cannot measure yourself against someone playing a different role. Epictetus used the metaphor of life as a play. Some are assigned short roles, some long ones, some visible, some obscure. Excellence is not choosing the role. Excellence is performing the role you have well. When you act as if you are the best, you stop comparing roles. You focus on execution. Execution is controllable. Comparison is not.
This shift immediately reduces anxiety. Anxiety thrives on variables you cannot manage. The Stoic removes those variables from consideration. He asks only, "Did I act according to reason?" This question stabilizes the mind. It also reshapes how fear operates. Fear at its core is anticipation of loss, loss of comfort, loss of approval, loss of identity. But when identity is anchored internally, loss changes meaning. You may lose position, you may lose recognition, but you do not lose yourself. This is why the Stoics placed such emphasis on inner freedom. Inner freedom is not emotional numbness, it is independence of judgment. No one can force you to believe something is good or bad without your consent. This is Epictetus's most radical claim, and it is true. Events happen, interpretation follows. Between them lies choice. Most people surrender that choice unconsciously. The Stoic reclaims it deliberately. When fear arises, he does not argue with it emotionally. He questions it rationally. What exactly is being threatened? Is this within my control? Does this affect my character? If the answer is no, fear is downgraded, not eliminated, downgraded. It becomes background noise, not command. This practice requires discipline. Discipline is the Stoic alternative to motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It fluctuates with mood and circumstance. Discipline is principle in motion. When you act as if you are the best, you commit to discipline over motivation. You do not wait to feel confident before acting. You act in accordance with your standards, and confidence follows as a consequence. This is where many modern approaches fail. They tell you to feel different first. The Stoics told you to act differently first. Feelings will catch up. This is not suppression. It is leadership of the self. Leadership always involves acting before consensus. In this case, the consensus you override is internal resistance. Resistance is not a sign you are doing something wrong. Often, it is a sign you are moving beyond habit. Habits protect familiarity, not excellence. The Stoics treated habit cautiously. Habit can preserve virtue. Habit can preserve vice. Awareness determines which. Acting as if you are the best means interrupting habits that weaken you, not dramatically, consistently. You speak more precisely. You prepare more thoroughly. You excuse yourself less often. These changes are subtle, but subtle changes compound. This compounding is invisible in the short term, but over time it produces unmistakable authority. Authority is not loud. It is stable. People trust those who are predictable under pressure. This predictability is not rigidity. It is reliability of values. Marcus Aurelius was admired not because he was flawless, but because he was consistent. He responded to chaos with order. He responded to provocation with restraint. He responded to power with humility. This consistency built trust. Trust builds influence. Influence built on character outlasts influence built on image. The Stoics understood status differently than modern culture. Status was not something to chase. It was something to survive. High status brings scrutiny. Low status brings neglect. Neither should disturb judgment. Seneca warned that craving status enslaves you to others' opinions. Freedom requires indifference to ranking. This does not mean apathy. It means non-dependence. When you act as if you are the best, you stop outsourcing self-respect to social hierarchies. You respect yourself because your actions warrant it. This self-respect changes how you handle criticism. Criticism is inevitable. The Stoic does not seek to eliminate it. He seeks to extract value from it. Is it accurate? Then it is useful. Is it inaccurate? Then it is irrelevant. In neither case does it define you. This stance protects against defensiveness. Defensiveness signals insecurity. Security does not require defense. It requires clarity. Clarity about who you are responsible to. The Stoics were clear. You are responsible to reason, not to popularity, not to consensus, not to noise. Reason, however, is demanding. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths. It requires you to abandon comforting narratives. But it rewards you with coherence. Coherence is rare, and rarity creates distinction. Not through performance, through presence. When you enter a room with internal order, others feel it. Not because you dominate, but because you are not seeking dominance. You are not seeking anything from them. This absence of need creates space. Space creates respect. This is the paradox the Stoics understood. The less you need approval, the more credible you become. The less you chase validation, the more solid your confidence feels. Acting as if you are the best is ultimately about sovereignty. Sovereignty over impulse, sovereignty over fear, sovereignty over self-sabotage. It is a daily recommitment, not a declaration. Declarations are cheap. Practice is expensive. And the Stoics paid that price willingly because they understood what was at stake. A life governed by reaction is a life not fully lived. A life governed by principle is difficult, but dignified. In the next part, we will examine how this Stoic confidence holds under real pressure, failure, loss, time pressure, ambition, and mortality, and how acting as if you are the best creates not arrogance, but resilience. Eventually, every philosophy is tested under pressure, not in moments of comfort, not when circumstances cooperate, but when effort does not produce results, when plans fail, when time feels short. This is where the difference between confidence and performance becomes visible. Most people confuse the two. Performance depends on conditions. Confidence depends on structure. The Stoics were not interested in how a person behaved when things went well. They studied how a person behaved when control was removed. When acting as if you are the best is misunderstood, it collapses under pressure. It becomes brittle, defensive, aggressive. But when understood correctly, it does the opposite. It stabilizes. The Stoic did not define himself by winning. He defined himself by conduct. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that outcomes were not his responsibility. Effort was. Judgment was. Intention was. This distinction transforms how one experiences failure. Failure, for most people, feels like exposure. It threatens the image they have carefully constructed. It suggests inadequacy. The Stoics stripped failure of this power. Failure was not evidence of inferiority. It was evidence of engagement. You cannot fail at something you never attempt. Avoiding failure is not strength. It is withdrawal. Withdrawal feels safe, but it erodes self-trust. And once self-trust is lost, confidence becomes performative. The Stoic accepts failure as part of discipline, not as justification for bitterness, but as instruction. Epictetus taught that the price of progress is discomfort. If you are unwilling to be uncomfortable, you are unwilling to grow. Acting as if you are the best means you no longer demand reassurance before effort. You act because action is required, not because success is guaranteed. This mindset changes how ambition operates. Ambition, unexamined, becomes restless. It chases outcomes. It chases recognition. It chases comparison. The Stoics refined ambition. They redirected it inward. The question stopped being, "How far can I go?" and became, "How well can I live?" This does not make ambition smaller. It makes it harder. Living well requires discipline under temptation. It requires restraint when indulgence is available. It requires patience when urgency tempts shortcuts. Marcus Aurelius believed that excellence was not intensity, it was consistency. Anyone can act with discipline for a day. Few can do it daily. This is why Stoicism emphasizes routine, not rigid schedules, principled repetition. You wake up and recommit. You do not negotiate with impulse. You do not wait for motivation. You ask one question: what does my character require today? This question simplifies life. It removes drama. Drama feeds ego. The Stoics had no interest in ego. Ego depends on comparison. Comparison produces instability. Stability comes from self-reference, not self-absorption, self-governance. Acting as if you are the best means you measure yourself against standards, not people. Standards do not change their opinions. Standards do not compete. They clarify. This clarity is essential when time becomes visible. Time is the ultimate pressure. Seneca wrote that people behave as if time were abundant, yet react with panic when it reveals its limits. The Stoic treats time differently. Time is not something to fill, it is something to honor. Honor requires intention. How you spend your time is how you spend your life. This is not metaphor, it is arithmetic. The Stoic does not rush. He prioritizes. He does not confuse urgency with importance. Many urgent things are trivial. Few important things are urgent. Acting as if you are the best means refusing to live reactively. You do not surrender your attention to noise. You choose focus. Focus is power, not loud power, quiet power. The power to sustain effort over time. This is why Stoicism resists instant transformation narratives. There is no moment when discipline becomes effortless. There is only the next choice, and then the next. Over time, these choices accumulate. Identity forms, not from declarations, from patterns. Patterns create reputation, not the reputation others see, the reputation you carry internally. This internal reputation determines whether you trust yourself. Self-trust is rare. Most people doubt themselves because they have repeatedly betrayed their own intentions. They promise and postpone. They plan and avoid. Stoicism ends this cycle by demanding honesty. If you say you will do something, do it. If you cannot do it, revise the promise. Integrity is alignment between word and action. This alignment produces calm. Calm is not passivity, it is readiness. Readiness allows you to face uncertainty without panic. Uncertainty is unavoidable. The Stoics accepted this fully. They did not seek to predict the future. They sought to be prepared for it. Preparedness is always within your control. Prediction is not. When you act as if you are the best, you stop obsessing over scenarios. You focus on capability. Can I respond with clarity? Can I remain composed? Can I act justly under pressure? These are the real tests. This orientation becomes especially important in moments of loss of status, loss of opportunity, loss of relationships. The Stoics did not minimize grief. They contextualized it. Grief is natural. Collapse is optional. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that everything external is on loan. Health, position, people. You do not own them. You steward them. When something is returned, you do not accuse life of theft. You acknowledge impermanence. This perspective does not make loss painless. It makes it survivable. Survivability preserves dignity. Dignity allows recovery. Recovery allows continuation. This is the Stoic cycle. Suffer without surrender. Endure without bitterness. Continue without resentment. Acting as if you are the best does not mean believing you are untouchable. It means believing you are responsible. Responsible for your response. Responsible for your conduct. Responsible for maintaining order within. This order becomes increasingly valuable as external structures fail. Markets fluctuate. Institutions disappoint. People change. The Stoic does not depend on stability outside. He cultivates stability inside. This inner stability is not rigidity. It is flexibility without chaos, like a structure that bends without breaking. This is Stoic strength, not domination, durability.
Durability is the rarest advantage. It is built slowly. It cannot be faked, and once established, it becomes unmistakable. At a certain point, the pursuit of more quietly loses its authority. Not more money, not more recognition, not more proof. The question changes, not how do I win, but how do I live without betraying myself? The Stoics recognized this moment as a threshold. Before it, life is largely reactive. After it, life becomes deliberate. Deliberate does not mean easy. It means ordered. Order for the Stoics was not about control over life. It was about coherence within the self. Most people suffer not because life is difficult, but because their inner world is disorganized. Values conflict, desires contradict, judgment wavers. This internal chaos drains energy long before circumstances do. Stoicism resolves this chaos by restoring hierarchy, reason above impulse, principle above comfort, character above outcome. When this hierarchy is established, something remarkable happens. Life does not become predictable, but it becomes navigable. You stop demanding certainty. You start cultivating readiness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the task of a human being is not to arrange the universe, but to arrange the mind that meets it. This is the final form of Stoic confidence, not bravado, not optimism, prepared composure.
Prepared composure allows you to meet adversity without collapse. When plans unravel, you adjust rather than panic. When people disappoint, you respond without bitterness. When success arrives, you remain grounded. This consistency is not accidental, it is trained. Trained through daily attention to judgment. Every situation presents the same choice: react or respond. Reaction is automatic. Response is deliberate. The Stoic trains response. This training does not remove emotion. It places emotion in its proper role. Emotion informs. Reason decides. When emotion decides, chaos follows. When reason decides, emotion stabilizes.
This balance produces inner authority. Inner authority is the quiet confidence that you will not abandon yourself under pressure. Most people fear external failure. The Stoic fears internal betrayal. To act against one's principles is the only true defeat. Everything else is circumstance. This is why the Stoics were unimpressed by status. Status can be granted or revoked. Character cannot be taken. Seneca warned that many people climb impressively, only to discover they are standing on ground they do not respect. Acting as if you are the best means refusing to stand anywhere that contradicts your values, not because others are wrong, but because integrity demands alignment. Alignment between belief and behavior. This alignment creates peace, not comfort. Peace. Peace is the absence of internal conflict. When you stop arguing with yourself, energy returns. That energy can be directed outward, toward contribution rather than compensation. The Stoics believed human beings are not meant to live inwardly consumed. They are meant to participate, to contribute to families, communities, and institutions. But contribution is only sustainable when the inner life is stable. An unstable inner life seeks validation rather than service. A stable inner life offers value without needing applause. Marcus Aurelius believed that one's duty was to perform their role well, regardless of recognition. You may not choose your circumstances, but you always choose your conduct. This is the Stoic definition of freedom. Freedom from inner chaos. Freedom from compulsive reaction. Freedom from dependence on outcomes. This freedom is subtle. It does not announce itself. It reveals itself only when tested. When you are criticized unfairly and remain composed. When you are overlooked and continue to act with excellence. When you are tempted to compromise and choose restraint. These moments define a life, not the highlights, the responses. The Stoics understood that most people are not destroyed by catastrophe. They are eroded by inconsistency. Small betrayals of self, small rationalizations, small delays. Over time, these accumulate into doubt. Stoicism reverses this process. It builds self-trust. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Confidence that does not fluctuate with opinion. Confidence that does not require comparison. Confidence that endures.
This is why acting as if you are the best is not arrogance. Arrogance seeks elevation. Stoicism seeks integrity. Integrity does not compare. It commits. Commitment produces stability. Stability produces clarity. Clarity produces effectiveness. Effectiveness produces influence. Not forced influence, earned influence. People trust those who are predictable in principle, who do not abandon standards when pressured, who do not inflate themselves in success or diminish themselves in failure. This trust is rare, and rarity creates gravity. Gravity does not need volume. It attracts naturally. This is Stoic leadership. Leadership of the self first. Everything else follows. The Stoics were under no illusion that life would reward virtue consistently. They observed, without bitterness, that good people suffer and unworthy people prosper. This did not disturb them. Virtue was not pursued for reward. It was pursued because it was right. When goodness depends on reward, it becomes fragile. When goodness is rooted in principle, it becomes resilient. Resilience is the Stoic advantage. Resilience does not mean emotional hardness. It means structural strength, the ability to absorb impact without disintegration. This ability becomes crucial when mortality enters awareness. The Stoics did not avoid the thought of death. They used it. Memento mori was not morbidity. It was clarity. You do not have unlimited time.
So what deserves it? Petty resentment? Endless comparison? Hesitation born of fear? Or disciplined effort, honest speech, courageous action? Marcus Aurelius wrote as if each day might be his last, not to dramatize life, but to prioritize it. Urgency without panic, seriousness without heaviness. This is the Stoic tone. Calm, but not passive. Engaged, but not frantic. Firm, but not rigid. This tone is increasingly rare and increasingly necessary. The world does not need more noise. It needs more composed individuals. Individuals who can think clearly under pressure, who can disagree without hostility, who can act without needing validation. If these ideas resonate, it is not because they promise comfort. It is because they promise coherence. A life that makes sense to itself. A life where effort aligns with values. A life where confidence is not performed, but embodied. If you value this depth of inquiry, remaining connected supports the continuation of thoughtful, unsensational exploration in a culture that rarely slows down long enough for it, not out of habit, out of alignment. And if there is one person in your life, a friend, a colleague, someone capable of serious conversation, who would genuinely appreciate reflecting on these ideas with you, consider sharing this. Not to persuade, to think together. Finally, if you choose to leave a comment, let it be considered. Not praise, a thought, a question, an insight this stirred.
The Stoics believed dialogue refined judgment, and judgment, refined, is the foundation of a life well lived. Thank you for your attention. Remember, you do not become strong by waiting to feel confident. You become confident by acting with integrity, and that choice is available every day.